2-2. So we've got our series of twos today to open Littleton Conservation meeting. So we're going to go ahead and start with approving the minutes, which are from February the 8th. And do we have any omissions or corrections to the drafted minutes? Amy, thank you for doing that. I know you weren't with us, so I know it can be difficult sometimes.
Well, Lucia did it. I did end up listening to it anyway, but Lucia did the minutes.
Okay, great. Anybody have any corrections?
So they looked good. The only thing that I noted was on 331 Goldsmith, I think Matt Morrow's name had like an extra W towards the end of the paragraph.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. If we don't have any others, do we have a motion for the minutes?
I'll make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes of February 8th, 2022 as amended.
Okay, great. Do we have a second?
Second.
Excellent. Who would like to do roll call? Carl?
That's
No,
Andrew's going to do it today. There you go, Andrew.
I'll be the caller of the roll. All right, so let's go down the line here. Carl.
Carl Malberg, aye.
Kyle.
I will be abstaining. I was not at the meeting.
Okay, Chase.
Chase, aye.
Sarah.
Sarah Seward, aye.
Myself, aye. It's unanimous.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any additions to administrative discussions? Amy, I think you had 166 mil.
Yep, and some stuff on invasive species and vernal pools.
Okay.
You know, I do have one. We did have the CPC meeting last week, and we had discussed, Amy, the boardwalk project, getting something submitted prior to this upcoming town meeting. No?
Yeah, I just said it's not going to happen.
Oh, and under the Oak Hill budget stuff, we'll get to it when we get to it, but I guess there's a lot of stuff changing with that, with the 2 cell tower accounts, but we can get into it when that discussion comes along.
Well, you might know more than I do.
So it sounds like we'll strike the CPC discussion and add the 2 Mill Road and invasives. Let's go ahead and start with, as written, request for a certificate of compliance, 83 Mill Road, 204-927.
Yeah, I looked at it today. It's not ready. They're done and they're selling the property, but the certificate, the grass isn't growing yet.
Okay.
Erosion controls are in place, but I had told him it's probably going to be not until this summer sometime.
Okay.
We can just
So
table that.
We'll scratch that. Okay, let's jump right into the Oak Hill cell tower budget. Amy was good enough to send us a outline of that. Do you want to share that, Amy, if you can?
Maybe.
While we're doing that, Andrew, if you want to go ahead and let us know if you have some insight on that.
Yeah, so actually there is a major update with the 2 cell tower accounts. Apparently, for years and years, we've had money from these 2 revenue sources go into basically set aside accounts for us to use for Oak Hill, for instance, maintenance of land. And Newtown Hill has been dipped into the CPA monies for open space over the last couple of years. Well, it turns out that the town this whole time wasn't authorized to actually have 2 separate accounts created for that. So Alicia in the finance department, our new director of finance and budget, was telling us at the CPC meeting that essentially we're going to have to go for special home rule legislation to create 2 accounts to have these funds set aside in. Otherwise, the money is going to have to go into the general budget. Yeah, so on the CPC anyway, we were kind of thinking that if anything, before it gets scooped up into the general budget this time around, if we're not able to save it before that happens, maybe we could put it into CPA, into the open space account, so at least it would stay in that category, but it's a tricky situation. Essentially, the town's going to have to petition the general court to create these accounts for us, because otherwise the money is going to go into the town's general budget and just go off anywhere, essentially. So worst case scenario, I would think, would be to take that money into funnel it over to CPA before it went to anything else. But we're definitely going to have to look into this a bit more.
So going forward, the current funds are not on hold. We're still able to allocate them and distribute them.
I guess that's a major violation. So I don't know what's going to wind up happening this time around, but we'll definitely have to follow up with finance and budget and make sure that money gets out of these accounts before it does wind up getting transferred into the general fund.
Okay.
Well, for the rest of this fiscal year, I am actively charging to Oak Hill.
Oh yes, I imagine it's
Yeah.
fine for now, but moving forward, I guess, yeah, I mean, we're gonna have to figure something out just to make sure that that money stays in open space.
It's interesting because I hope our administrator for the town will be able to work through that, because it was certainly the townspeople's intent on the floor of town meeting to create that account. So.
Oh, absolutely, but I guess all this time it required a special state authorization and nobody knew.
Because it's all three of them. Oak Hill has been in front of the town meeting every year as a reauthorization. Newtown Hill has disappeared. That hasn't gone to CPC for a couple of years, I don't think.
Yeah.
And there's the Spectacle Pond one, that's the Clean Lakes.
My understanding is any special account that isn't already permitted by some statute that's existing with the state has to get rolled into the general fund. So it's a messy situation.
Okay. All right. Let's try and keep on top of that. Certainly, if we need to do letters of support to anyone in the Commonwealth, we're happy to get started on that. So
It'd be really nice if they told me about this.
It was very surprising, yeah, because we literally just found out at the CPC meeting last Wednesday night. I forget when. Wednesday night.
Yeah, and I haven't heard a word. They haven't. Well,
really? Oh no. So what we can do is, I guess, follow up with Alicia and see how we can save these monies from going anywhere else for the time being. But yeah.
okay. All right. Thank you, Andrew. Let's jump along to land use, the bench policy.
I had a quick question, Amy. Sorry, Sarah, about
Yep,
the
no, go
budget hearing. You got a couple items in here, like a kiosk and the kiosk and concrete for $2,000, the parking signs and Mary Shepherd sign. Are those not going into this budget, right? Because what it would be $2,100
I don't know. I mean,
included.
Joe knows I gave him the typical language for the warrant article. And so he's got a placeholder for it. And so I was just moving ahead with the usual budget, which is, what I thought we were going to discuss tonight of the $10,000. We have time, so we can put this on hold if you want to, while we figure out if this is worth the effort or not. Or maybe I don't know, maybe they're planning on voting on continuing some sort of way of distributing these cell tower funds that they've always been. And then later in the evening would be a warrant article, something like this. So I don't know if anybody had any questions or issues or additions to this. The only thing that came up today is whether or not we want to put some invasive species control money in here.
It's not a bad idea, actually.
Yeah, I think it would be a placeholder, or we'd still need to struggle with what the heck we're gonna control and where and how much it would all cost. But
right, but I think it's great to be able to start, for people to be able to visualize that as well. So I don't see there's any harm, provided there's funding for that.
Theoretically, there's like $200,000 in the Oak Hill Fund. So I will put it on here as a line item, maybe $3,000, and see where we go.
Would we anticipate that that's mechanical or chemical?
I'm sorry, Chase, I couldn't hear you.
Would we anticipate that that's mechanical or chemical invasive species control?
It could be either. So we would include permitting, if any of it's near wetlands as well as, I don't know, a land use permit. I don't know how you would want to approve something like that if it's not in a wetland. But I'll put in some money as a placeholder, so at least it's there if we decide later this spring or summer or something to actually move ahead with something.
That sounds good.
Okay, if there aren't any other questions, let's jump over to the bench policy.
I don't know if you wanted a bench policy or if I'm just making too much of it, but just as an FYI, the Girl Scout troop, I can't remember which one, would like to do some bat boxes and a bench potentially at Cloverdale, which is a great idea. But we've been getting a lot of benches, and benches do need maintenance and all that sort of stuff. So I don't know if you just want to deal with these one at a time or come up with something.
I think it would certainly be nice to have a form that someone would fill out. So to take the pressure off you to be able to, similar to a permit, that they already upload their design, their materials, their placement, locus map, and then also make them go out. So say I'm the third bench, that I would need to go and say, how many are actually on this property and what condition are they in? So that way that person can see, okay, there's nothing else here, or there's some that are deteriorated that I could actually renovate or remodel. So I think any type of form would be helpful.
All right, I can cobble something together for that. We work on it as we go. But they're extremely enthusiastic. I told them if they did bat houses, if they were up to it, I would love them to do a little 8.5 by 11 info sheet on bats that we could stick in the kiosk, which they were pretty happy about. And I think they might just want to come in on March 8th anyway to talk
Can
to
you
them
ask them
about
to
it.
do a little TikTok as well?
Why not?
Something. Or they can
even
put it up on a minute or two on YouTube that we can actually put up on the some of these projects we can link on the town website.
That's a great idea. I'm so low tech, it didn't even occur to me.
Yeah, I think YouTube would be more appropriate. So
Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments on benches or bat boxes? May is right around the corner, and that is the wetlands month.
I mean, I would love to do something, even something pretty minor. I'm just not sure I'm gonna be able to pull it together, but if anybody has any great ideas, let me know. I might just once a week either post something onto Littleton Trails and on the websites about how great wetlands are. I don't know.
Is that something that when we look at some of these youth leaders, whether it's the Girl Scouts or Boy Scouts, that we'd like to encourage them to do? And remember the group that came in that had the Save the Salamanders and the Toads and that? Just to mention some of the leaders.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. Because those couple of girls that came up with a turtle sign, which I think will actually go up this year.
Wow.
I know. And
Surprised they
Yeah,
haven't graduated from college already. That took years.
don't actually have them in my hand yet, so we'll see.
Okay, if anybody has any ideas for spreading the good word, you could share that with Amy. That would be great.
I just kind of feel bad. I miss it every year. So.
All right, let's do one more. Let's talk about remote meetings authorized through July 15th, 2022.
So your choice.
Is that the extension from the last extension?
Yeah, I think I meant to double check. I think your vote right now is to continue with the Zoom meetings until I think it was April 15th or whatever the original extension had been. So now you can vote to move it forward as far as July 15th. You can take a little while to think about it. I just need to know about a month ahead of time, so I start putting the right ad into the paper.
I would say my vote is just keep continuing till we can't do them anymore.
Do we still have a challenge that when we go in person, we may not have Tuesdays?
I am pretty sure we have room 103 on Tuesdays.
Okay. Because I think that's something that might change that balance if we were to lose Tuesdays. Okay.
Yeah, let them go for too long.
Yeah. I agree with Carl at the present time. Chase, I know you want to meet in person. I think.
Let me ask a
No, I'm
question.
good. I'm happy with this.
Will we always have the option if one of the members can't make the meeting, could one of the members meet remotely?
I believe the town has to have voted on that, and then it is possible.
Yeah, there were some changes to the open meeting law, and I don't recall the specifics of those.
I would like
It was-
I'd like to explore that if possible, so we have that as another option.
I would think that there's towns in the Commonwealth that are already trying to do that. Don't you think, Carl?
I would think so, but it'd be nice.
Acton has it.
Oh, they do?
They do not use it very often. We use it for the Community Preservation Committee because there was somebody who was away a lot. And I don't think we ever use it for Conscom, maybe once. But
it's just
it
a
gets
new thing.
difficult. You have to be able to link them in, and so it's a technology thing too, but everyone's so used to Zoom now that it might be easier.
I mean, aren't the meetings on Zoom wouldn't the meetings be broadcast anyway? Or is it broadcast differently? So it wouldn't be broadcast or Zoom is what you're saying.
Right. Well, who knows what's going to happen after July 15th?
I don't know, I think it's worth exploring personally.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll plan on showing up in person, but there's always the time that you're not around that you'd like to participate.
Yep.
Okay. Right, let's go ahead. We're gonna now, the 7:45 has postponed, and now we're gonna go for the 7:46, which is a continued public meeting, request for determination of applicability. Taylor Street, it's the water main installation. And that last we had was the discussion of the waiver. Anyone here to chat about that? Or
Yeah, Steve Donay from Tata and Howard. So yeah, the waiver was submitted last week. So
Okay.
do I need to explain more, or I don't know what the next step is. Waiver.
It was distributed to the commission members. I think if you would like to just go over a brief summary of that, Steve, that would be appreciated.
Sure. So we're looking for a waiver for work in the Littleton Wetlands Protection Bylaw 50-foot no disturb area. It's the whole project. It's about 450 feet of water main, the vast majority of which is going in the existing paved roadway. The work that would not be in the paved roadway would just be in the shoulder. It's connecting into the existing main, replacing a hydrant in place, and then making 2 service connections. The services are already there. It's just putting a connection into the new main. If you want, I can share my screen and bring up the site plan again. If that's something you would want to look at.
Commission members I think most of us are familiar with that. What I'd like to do, I do see we have a hand raised. I would like to ask the commission members if anyone has any questions before we bring someone else in. Commissioners, you've heard and seen the waiver, and I think we're all familiar with the site. Anyone have any questions?
My only question, Sarah, is really for Amy in terms of administratively. We were a little unclear a couple of weeks ago, and that's why we deferred this. What the pathway was for something like this that we could reach a negative determination on, but is also within the no disturb zone, and what the how those pieces are supposed to fit together.
Yeah, I think it's maybe the first time we've actually kind of run across that. And I think, Chase, your point that if you're doing a negative determination, then that basically meets the waiver, although a negative determination doesn't cover the public interest piece of it. And you don't know you're going to get a negative determination until you have all the facts in front of you. So I'll just make better care this time that any RDAs that are within the 50, and I don't think you're gonna get very many of those, do have a waiver attached to them.
Well, and my question really, what I want to make sure is clear is our expectation that the sedimentation controls, siltation basins, et cetera, that are currently articulated in the waiver are still the expectation. I want to make sure there's a mechanism to memorialize that. And if the waiver goes away, if we reach a negative determination, I don't know how that gets memorialized, but not that I'm worried about the town not taking care of the town's resources, but I do want to make sure that the expectation is there for future projects.
So my 2 cents on this is that if you, within the 50, we shouldn't be able to issue an RDA. Because it doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't make sense to me. They're within the bylaw 50.
But that's why they would be asking for a waiver. And I think this project might be a pretty good example, is that if you're doing work in a roadway, you have no choice. I'm not sure what a notice of intent would get you, basically.
I'm just trying to figure it out, that's all.
Oh, yeah. And this one is also tough because there are a lot of overlaying things, because it's also a limited and exempt project and different pieces of it. So this one's a little extra confusing, if you will. But I have no problem if you want me to direct people that if they're doing any work in the 50, that it's going to be a notice of intent.
Okay, let's go ahead, Amy, if you could help select the person that has their hand waved, if they can get in.
She should be able to unmute herself. Eileen Wengatter.
Eileen, if you'd like to introduce yourself and give your address, please.
Sure, it's Eileen Weeda Gardner, 25 Maplehurst Road, Littleton. I just have a quick question. I was here for the 7:45 meeting, and I heard that it had been postponed, and I wasn't aware of that. So I'm curious, do I stay, or is it happening later tonight, or is it on a different thing? Not to interrupt.
Sorry about that, Eileen. On the, and if you go on the updated agenda, so it's been continued to March 8th.
Okay, I didn't.
So there's no need, so they will not be heard at any point tonight.
Okay, all right. I won't take up your time. Thank you for answering my question. Have a good evening.
Yeah, we'll see you in a few weeks.
Sounds good. Thank you. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Okay. We are back. What would we like to do? Issue the waiver? Carry on? More discussion?
I'll make a motion that we issue a -3 determination with attached waiver for the Taylor Street water main installation projects. And do we have a DEP file number for that? I didn't.
RDA, no, DEP.
Oh, that's right. What am I thinking?
Yep.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All righty, if we can take a roll call, all those in favor, and if you could do that for us, Andrew?
Sure. Kyle.
I'm actually
Chase.
She's good with that.
Carl.
Carl Melberg, aye.
Sarah.
Sarah Seward, aye.
Myself, aye. It's unanimous.
Okay, thank you. That closes that. Steve, thank you very much for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have a few minutes here, so we're going to jump back to administrative discussions, proposed updates, Mass WPA and 401 regulations.
Yeah, so how much time do you have right now? Is it going till 8?
Yeah, we've got a few minutes, yeah.
Yep. So DEP is going back through and updating the regs. This isn't going to work too well. 1 second here. For mostly to do with the stormwater. And they're coming out. There we go. I can't talk and click at the same time. So basically, the main reasons they're doing this is to address the increased precipitations, aligning with the EPA MS4 stuff. using nature-based site design, which they will be calling environmentally sensitive site design. So there's a new ESSD for you. And theoretically, a new user-friendly stormwater handbook. Based on the 10 existing standards in the stormwater, they're changing number 2. They'll be using what they call NOAA Plus, which is the NOAA 14, but the upper end of the confidence interval. And that's as much as I know about that right now. Groundwater recharge is going to go up to 1 inch for all soil types, because for some of it, it's been ½ inch. For pollutant removal, it's going up from 80% TSS to 90%, and they're adding a 60% total phosphorus. And I do not know how they are going to suggest that be done.
Yeah, how, are they giving guidance on how they want that measured?
I am assuming they will. This was a preview by DEP. The new proposed changes aren't even out yet. So this was a sort of a, hey, this is where we're going. I think everyone was, as far as I was concerned, we're a little speechless.
I mean, it sounds
development.
good, just how do you implement it?
But that's pretty much been everyone's detail. And how are they doing that?
What's the goalpost? Like, when are they thinking this is going to come into fruition for everyone?
This fall.
Wow.
Now, I don't know about like if these go effect September 1st, if you submit August 30th, you get, I don't know, they'll have, I assume that'll all be in the regs, how all that works.
Do they, just on a side question, do they do open hearings, like in order to take in input from everyone?
Yes. Yeah. They're, yeah, I didn't have it here. They're going to be releasing these for comment, I believe, in April, and you can have comment, and they'll be having public hearings to take comments over the summer. And then they're expecting to finalize them this fall 2022.
Okay.
So they'll be redoing the regs, and that will go through a formal posting, and their handbook is a slightly different process, but it'll be going through at the same time.
And I'm sorry, because it was a little bit too much for me to take in all at once. Is this just mass, or is this what level?
This is deep. This is Mass DEP. This is the wetland protection regs.
Okay, so just mass. Okay.
Just Mass. They're trying to mirror EPA. But
Are there any states that currently do mirror EPA?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Not my problem
No, I'm just
anymore.
curious
I don't
if
work in any
anyone's
other
able
states.
to do it. Okay.
And then they're adding a new standard for water bodies that have TMDLs, and they didn't really get into what exactly that's going to mean. And then,
But most of our ponds in town have TMDs, right?
so yeah, it's
like
not,
Long Lake, Mattawanakee.
yeah, it might not
Orange
affect a lot of
doesn't.
towns, but I think it will affect Littleton one way or another, and I have no idea how.
Okay.
And then for more jargon, they're not going to call them BMPs. They're going to call them stormwater control measures, SCMs, which must be the EPA term of art. I don't know why. And you can, an applicant can get credit for an environmentally sensitive site design, which they went through this not as fast as I am, but pretty fast, which seemed to me could mean that they could end up with smaller basins. I'm not sure how any of this is going to work. And you can get credit for minimizing impervious, putting solar up on your roof, disconnecting the roof from your basin, providing tree canopy, such as in your parking lot. And the one I really didn't like was enhancing the buffer, because I could see that almost kind of conflicting with the bylaw.
Right.
So I feel the changes could be, I don't know, enough that you guys might want to pay attention. Once they come out, I'm going to talk to our MS4 consultant and maybe just see if they can compare what these DEP regs are compared to our bylaws. And
I think
intent.
someone's going to make a lot of money consulting.
I don't like the idea of the credits,
Yep, I agree.
because
What happens when the canopy disappears, or
well,
Yeah, so that may conflict with the bylaw, or the bylaw may just, take care of that.
Okay, thank you for sharing that.
But kind of big changes, so I thought you'd want to at least hear a little bit of it, because I
Right.
assume you'll be hearing more.
I think it'll be interesting if you can kind of earmark the calendar for us along the way. So as this continues to evolve, just to give us like little updates, just like now.
Definitely, and I do think it's worth getting a stormwater professional to look at this, whether it's green or I can't remember who's doing our MS4 stuff. But
I would be surprised if they aren't already going to be taking a look at
all
that.
over it, yeah. But I don't think
Yeah.
anyone has actually seen it yet.
Yeah, and it seems really fast for that to happen. You know, as far as finalizing it, the MCP has been saying that they're going to update theirs for what is it, like 5 years now. And as soon as comments started coming in, they were maybe we'll push this back a little bit. And so it's just input for duty right now. So
Yeah, I think the NOAA stuff is pretty straightforward. The environmental site design stuff and the phosphorus isn't quite so straightforward. So who knows?
And that's one of the sorts of things that I think we could lean on green and ask them to do us a favor and give us a half-hour orientation on it. They're certainly going to have a road show that they'd be happy to
Exactly.
lay out for us.
Okay, let's go ahead and jump into our 8 o'clock, which is a continued public hearing, notice of intent 1 Sawyer Lane, Mass DEP 204-0951, construction of 1 deck and 1 shed. So, commissioners, you were shared with information again this evening. And is anyone here to speak to this?
Yes, ma'am. This is Arshad Nisar, 1 Sawyer Lane.
Okay.
Need the
you.
permission of.
Would you like to go ahead and submit what was, to do a screen share, submit what
Sure.
was given to the commissioners so the public can see? And once again, please state your full name and your updates from our previous meeting.
Sure. My full name is Arshad Nisar, and updates. I'm trying to project my screen. Is the slide visible? Can you see that? Yeah.
It is.
So from picking the threads from our last meeting, he was not here, so I was just one quick slide to show the context. We have a slide. We have a shed that I'm trying to ask permission for. The pointer is not visible. Sorry, I'm trying to show the laser pointer.
That's okay. You can carry on with the narrative if you'd like.
Okay, so if you can see my pointer move, I have it. So I have it. This is the yellow circle is the location of the shed, and it's outside the 50-foot line. You'll see that on the next slide. So overall, just to recap, Amy was not here. The turnaround has been moved.
You don't need to
side,
recap for me.
and, okay.
Yeah,
fine.
Amy has already
So-
watched the hearing.
And there's okay, cool. So this is the location. So this was requested for the shed, the exact shed size and where it is, where I'm planning to locate it. And the 2 trees there are pretty distant from each other, and they're all pine trees, pretty tall. So that's a picture of that spot, and it's well outside the 50-foot line. Perhaps the only flat spot I have in my yard. So that's the shed. And any questions about this?
I think we're good.
So should I move to the deck?
Yes, please.
Yes. So coming to the deck, so what we had intended to do was to construct a deck that is within the 50-foot line in this manner, but let's call it the old plan. So the revised plan looks like this, which I submitted to the commission. So this revised plan has also been revised a little bit more to make it better. So I'll show that on this next slide. So just note that this was 7 feet and the cantilever was 5 and 2. So we did the calculations again. We found out that this 2 should be really 1.5. So instead of being 7 deep, it should be 6.5 deep. So So this is the revised plan updated. Amy, this you have not seen, or the commission has not seen. This happened, on Friday. So, but this is just corrected. It's actually making it smaller. So, and there are other recommendations from people and the building department and others. So basically, first of all, this is not a covered deck, just to make it clear. In the old plans, it was called covered deck. We don't want to make a covered deck. It's an open deck. And for the flooring of this deck, we'll use natural wood, maybe cedar, pine, whatever is appropriate and environmental friendly. And we'll leave some spacing between the flooring planks, so for the precipitation and rainwater to flow through. All the work of sawing or cutting the material will be done away from the site. It will be done on the other side, maybe on my driveway. So only the assembly will happen at this place. These connections to the house, they are realistic. I've shown them to my building contractor and an engineer, and they loved it. This is, some of them were their suggestions. There will be a threaded rod that will hook onto the ceiling joists to hold this. And there'll be another truss or a sort of connecting rod here that will hold onto the wall. So again, the depth is reduced to 6.5 feet for accurate cantilever calculations. So proposed deck was 7 feet by 14. So we're cutting it down to 6.5 and 14, 7 square feet lesser. And the 7 points of building department and the contractors agreed all to 1 through 6, but I had an afterthought, to make it even better. That's if it's possible structurally, because I don't have structural guidance to that. It was just my thought. So the black line, if you see here, is the 14 feet deck was supposed to connect to this laser board. If possible, we can slide it 2 feet away. So it's a little more away from the 25 feet line here. Away or outward is better. But again, as I said, number 7 has not been verified with building department or the contractor. That's just if you feel that makes it better and if it's structurally possible. 1 through 6 seem to be all doable, and there won't be any footing, anything to do with the land underneath. And the precipitation will flow through and just make it as natural as possible. No composite material, no synthetics here. So, and then there have been letters from the neighbors. Every neighbor has told, please build this and get this thing cleaned up. So every neighbor, there are 5 people who come up the road on that side, and that's the only public there, and they want it done. Some have written emails to that effect, which were shown last. One email is from Kathleen Archer, another email is from Dean Sampson, and others have also said the same. So here
We
it
could
is.
ask if any of the commissioners have any specific questions for the shed or the deck as well. I have one request on the cantilever here, that the surface underneath the deck remain able so that rainwater can infiltrate, so we do not put down pavers.
Sure. That's why the spacing, as you see, is 3.5, 3 by 8.
Yep.
That is possible with natural wood. It won't be possible with composites. Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I would be fine having the precipitation go through. That's what I will encourage.
Okay. Any of the commissioners have any questions? Comments? Okay, if someone would like, yep, go ahead.
I guess I'm going to say the same thing I said before, that this is still construction and I can't support it. I think we've looked at decks the same way in the past. It's not the footer, it's the construction and the no disturb, and I think we set a dangerous precedent by setting that aside here. And it's not that I have a unique or particular concern with this, but rather fundamental concern with consistency and fairness.
My request is, I had this in the plans, like somebody had asked this question, why didn't you do this in 6.5 years? I got bogged down by, in building the house, and I do understand the commission's concerns, and, I have tried my best, and it will be as environmentally friendly as possible, and the construction would not happen here at all. It's only assembly. Everything would be cut, and I'll make sure that it's all done on my driveway. It's only assembly. Nothing will fall on the floor. This is pristine land here, and I will make sure that it's not affected by the construction at all. And there is history to this. I have come to this point just because of some history here, which I had no full control over. Very sorry about that.
Okay, if we don't have any other further discussion or comments, would someone?
I do have one comment, just that if you are going to issue this, I'll need wording for either the waiver or why a waiver isn't applicable. And that's still the sticking point.
Yep.
I agree, this is very,
Is that a question to me?
no, it's a question to the commission.
Okay.
So what does the waiver say currently?
Well, I think you have to determine if this is construction where it's cantilevered.
So,
Well, it's tough because it's a no disturb zone, and whether it's, if you consider that plane to just go up in the air, or if it's only if you cross the line on the ground.
Right. So I think that is certainly a discussion.
That's the tough point.
Mhm.
we don't have that specifically spelled out in the regs.
We do not.
I guess we know now. Yeah,
And you have certainly asked people in the past if they could cantilever something if they had no alternative but to do the work they're proposing anyway. I think the house on, was it Westchester? We asked them about cantilevering. They ended up with helical piers over what had been the paved or pavered porch deck.
was that in the 50? That what you just said?
Yes,
All right, because I remember that job.
it was the kitchen. I think they had to redo, and with the zoning setbacks and the plumbing, if I recall, they had no alternative location to do it. And they took out, the proposal included taking out a lot of the lawn, restoring a lot of the lawn.
But here again, we're talking horizontal versus vertical, and
Absolutely, and I agree, this is going to have
And-
minimal impact. But just keep in mind that if you approve a cantilever deck, you're going to approve a cantilever deck. And
Oh,
for
so,
what it's worth, the fact that it was permitted before may or may not play into that. And that may be enough of a difference between most of the other filings you see.
I guess that's where I'm at with it. That it was previously permitted. I think if this came in new, I may take a different look at it.
Kyle, Chase, Andrew, your thoughts?
It's definitely a tough call because I mean there isn't ground disturbance physically, but I mean the impact of the overhang will certainly have an effect on the 50-foot zone. So I mean, and where Carl points out that it was previously permitted, I mean, that doesn't really come into play with me just because the permit expired previously, but it's a tough call. It's definitely a tough call.
I mean, we follow the letter of the law, like Chase is saying, which I can't disagree with Chase. It's it's construction within the 50, and it may open the, like Chase said, it may open the door as precedent setting for other projects, which could do us in. We've been holding that 50 pretty strong.
And I mean, the other point that Chase made, where ultimately, if the waiver needs to be justified, I think that's still very up in the air. You know, what would justify issuing the waiver? I know we kind of batted around, or we have in the last couple of hearings, but that's another sticking point. The bar to get a waiver issued is pretty high. It has to be public safety, public health. I mean, so it's
Right, and the code enforcer determined it was not safety related. So.
I'm tending to lead more in the direction of Chase. Not that he said he's leaning one direction or the other, but I completely see where the point he made.
And I was trying to think if there's any place on this property where mitigation could be provided to make it, you know, the public interest, like Workers Credit Union or this other house did, because I think those are the only two times you've issued a waiver besides for a septic system.
Right, but with the Workers Credit Union, there was an incredible mitigation that went forth on that project.
Right, and the other house had opportunity for mitigation, which unfortunately Mr. Nassar does not have.
Right.
No, I took a look at that too, Amy. Trying to find a pathway here. I don't relish the idea of being a curmudgeon as much as it might seem that way. But I just don't see an opportunity for mitigation.
Okay, Kyle, before we have some closure, Kyle, do you want to offer any thoughts? And you know, I believe we've had quite a few hearings here, so I'd like to be able to offer guidance or come to some closure with this.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with what Chase and Carl have said. I see how this could open the door up to future issues. I also like to think that we take it a case by case basis, and this has a, you know, between previously being permitted, whether you think that's relevant or not, you know, it's something that we can look at in this case, and that would be very different in a new application. I do like the fact that it also, I guess it might not be a good thing, but more creative on finding a way to not create impacts, which is good for him, I guess, but could be bad coming forward for additional applicants.
Okay. So let's kind of circle back around. What I'm hearing is that the shed, the commission might be in favor of. And then when we go back to the original filing, we were looking at one deck. So Amy, would this be a modification or what would we be doing here?
I think you can issue, if this is where you're going, an order of conditions approving two actions, but not the third, if that's where you're going.
Okay, so can we be specific of the two actions? So that way the commissioners, if someone was inclined to make a motion, we could go forward with that?
Yeah, is North up on these plans? I've been calling the green
North,
deck.
Yeah, no, North.
I've been calling the green deck the bedroom deck.
Yes. That's north. It's exactly north up there. And Amy, by the way, regarding mitigation, I have turned the turnaround already to this side. You know, that has kind of reduced this impact to the area here. You know, it was the person who built the road. He said you are better off away from the wetland. You know, the turnaround, if you see come to my house, is on this side now. So this area is these contour lines are way up here, like 10 feet away from it. So that has already been done subconsciously, thinking that we need to stay away from the wetland. I think that's a major thing, because a lot of cars come into the house and none of them goes that side, they just stop here or here. And I have a lot of vegetation on the land. I love trees, and I did plant a lot of things from your list. And that was, I don't know, I mean, this is one major mitigation that I had an opportunity to do it, and I did it subconsciously.
I have to
And
step away for 1 second. I'll be right back.
could that not qualify as something in lieu of that? I am doing this. It's turnaround is used every day. It's an everyday disturbance if it were this side. And over time, this could slide down also and be a constant sort of stressor to this area.
Well, I think
So
the
it's-
commission would have to go back and review that entire amended order conditions that you did back then for that driveway and the retaining wall and the plantings that you did as part of that project. So I'm not sure if that could be counted or not. It would have to depend on how that was originally approved.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't have an idea of this expires. And I myself honestly was trying to build a smaller deck now. This was the old proposed one. And I did my best to kind of reduce it as much as possible and make it more amenable to the environment and not stop precipitation, anything that can be done. And plus I have this partially built site here, this door here. I wish I had known. But even then I did it on my own. When I turned the turnaround, I did it on my own. It's my faith and my trust in doing the right thing, which I did. Nobody told me to turn the turnaround here. I said, this is better to do and better for, this area. Let's do it. And the retaining wall also helps, because we don't, like previously when the retaining wall was not here, it was just a slope, this was a walkway to the front of the house and a slope. This way, this kind of isolates this busy traffic area. You're walking into the house from that area, from the wetland area. So it's kind of completely isolated by that retaining wall. And this area, this whole traffic goes this way. I agree, this is in the past, but it's part of my whole project. What else could I do on the project to make and to balance the effect of this if they are so harmful? I have done my best, and in my faith I've tried to do as well. Anyways.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Let's, any other commissioners would like to voice any comments, or anyone else like to hear where you would like to go forward, commissioners?
Did we do the 2 out of the 3? What was the,
Amy, can you just do a quick recap, please?
So there are 3 items up for approval. One is a shed. The second one is that large southern deck, which is just barely, I think, in the 100-foot buffer zone. And the third one is the northern deck off of the bedroom. So I think basically what someone needs to make a motion one way or the other and take a vote, and depending on what happens, you can make another motion and another vote.
So 2 out of the 3 would not involve the waiver.
Correct.
Do any commissioners have any questions of what is on the table at the present time? Okay. So if we have a commissioner that would like to make a motion, either way, negative, positive, we need to move forward with this hearing.
I don't think anyone wants to make a motion, but I'm happy to, Sarah, in the way that I conceptualized it. But if someone would prefer to make an affirmative motion and thinks that'll pass, I'm happy to be wrong here and I guess be overruled. But I think I've made clear where I stand. So I don't necessarily want to tromp on everybody else by advancing a motion for the shed and the southern deck, and denying the northern deck and the waiver.
If you would like to make a motion, and we'll see if you are seconded or
See if it
someone.
carries. Sure.
Yep.
And then I move to, I move to approve an order of conditions for,
Yeah, 204951.
for 204591.
951.
951, I apologize. An order of conditions to authorize the construction of the shed and the southern deck on this file, but deny the waiver request for the northern deck.
Okay, so you have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second,
Okay, so let's go ahead and do a roll call with the proposal that is put forth.
A roll call vote. Kyle?
Kyle Maxwell, aye.
Chase?
Chase Gerbeck, aye.
Sarah?
Sarah Seward, aye.
Carl?
Carl Melberg, aye.
And myself, aye.
Okay.
And myself,
We have a motion that is carried unanimously. Okay. All right. So we will end this hearing and carry on with others. Okay, thank you. We're going to go ahead. We're going to go back to administrative discussions. We've just completed the regulation updates. Let's go ahead and talk about 166 Mill Road, Amy.
Yeah, with the snow melt, at least before Friday. Bartlett, who is actually here, wanted to know if anybody wanted to be able to go out and do a site walk to take a look at the conditions and basically kick the ideas around.
I head out of town late morning tomorrow and won't be here till after the snow, so I can't make that. Any of the commissioners around? Do you want to do it can it be self-guided, or are we looking to do an actual site walk?
We don't have an application in front of you, but I believe Bartlett may have had it staked.
Yeah, I went out there today and put sticks in the ground showing the four corners of the proposed addition. And I would like to be there and discuss the issues with any of the commissioners that would like to show up. I'm fairly flexible about time. I could do it this week or next week or anytime.
Any commissioners available prior to the snow on Friday? I think that would be behoove us to try and get there before the snow.
No, I'd like to be, sorry, but I'm not. I could make some time work next week. But not this
Okay.
week, unfortunately.
I can do next week. I can't do this week. Carl or Andrew or Kyle?
Next week, probably better for me.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I really don't have time this week, unfortunately, after work.
Okay, let's go ahead and if we can look at our calendars perhaps and see if there's a day that we can try and reach out to for Mr. Harvey. And then obviously if we have a tremendous amount of snow cover, we can postpone that. But let's see if we can maybe come up with something. Anyone have a date they'd like to throw out after Monday? So I would prefer Tuesday on if you need me.
Tuesday, March 1st.
What time of the day you looking at?
Andrew, what time are you looking at?
Probably like 5:15-ish. What time does it get dark now? Like 6?
Not that late yet. Still earlier than that.
Yeah. Bartlett, how much time do you think we would need? Do you think we could get it done in say 15, 20 minutes with the sunlight?
I think so.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's just looking at it, seeing the slopes, the things that aren't evident from the photographs, and my talking for a minute about what my client wants.
So we can do that on site. So let's, who else could make the first? Andrew and I could do the first. Anyone else? Kind of right before dusk.
Right at dusk, I probably could, like 5:15. I certainly couldn't do it any earlier than
Yeah.
5.
Yep, ditto. 5:15 would be perfect.
Okay.
Yeah. Agreed.
Bartlett, we know we'll be chasing the sun for that one, but we'd like to try and schedule March 1st, which is a Tuesday at 5:15 at 166 Mill Road.
That works for me. It won't be long because I have a 6 o'clock meeting that night. So,
Okay.
Both do Bartlett, so.
Yep.
right. So if the ground is clear enough, I'll be there.
Okay. We can also, Amy can push around an email question in the morning to everyone, and you and she can make a call if you think it's appropriate for us to carry on with the site walk. If not, we can postpone.
Okay.
Okay. Super. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for listening.
Okay. Let's jump over. So, Amy, you had on the discussion invasives and vernals. I'm not sure if we've covered that.
Yeah, which is why I've been looking at my phone, because there's some people out there who we weren't sure if stuff might start moving tonight. That was all I was going to mention. I still might take a drive out there after this. It's colder than I thought it was going to be. And the invasives, Andrew, Rick, and I are meeting with SVT on next Monday evening, to start trying to pull together a plan for how to manage invasive species. It's a goat rope. There's just so much to do, and trying to find somebody to take it on, basically. But I think one of the steps will be assuming maybe some money for some invasive species in the budget. So at least we can take that easy step of getting that into the budget and go from there. But it's mostly going to be with SVT, advancing the Weed Warrior program, where we try to get volunteers to take on either certain invasive species or certain plots of land in open space to start doing pools. This would be hand pools, no mechanical, no chemicals.
Is there any way that we could align with May and the timing of, like, with some of the invasives, but the mustard greens and things like that? I know some towns have the money to put out the bags to do the pools. Could that be an easy reach for us to just let people know this is an invasive and how to properly dispose of it?
That is all. That will be all part of it, an educational piece of it, hands-on training. The problem is staffing it, basically.
Okay.
Even if we have a bunch of volunteers, they need some guidance and tracking and the whole 9 yards. Rick and I are going to design some garlic pool signs, smaller ones, and we put into a garlic mustard area and say pull, and then maybe some slightly bigger ones just for kind of roadside to let people know that, April is garlic mustard pool month, or, stuff like that. And we'll have guidelines up on there that said, July is the time of year to tackle roads, or, things like that, just so that the community's aware of it and have some more education available for them. There's a lot of interest from people, both to manage their own property as well as to help out on town property. So there's a lot of interest out there. It's harnessing it is going to be the hard part.
Has SVT or any of the conservation trusts ever done any, like, tutorial videos to let people know this is what it is, this is how to properly, well, I'm not going to eradicate it, but to pull it out and dispose of it?
There's a lot of stuff available online, and I think that's part of what I'm hoping SVT can do, is rather than me going down the rabbit hole and trying to find those tutorials, is to pick something. There's a lot of printed stuff and stuff on paper. I haven't really seen, I'm sure there's videos. I haven't really looked too hard for the video piece of things. But there is nothing like hand-on training.
Right. No, for sure.
Yeah. So
I keep coming back to, like, the benches and the Girl Scouts, and you have a wave of younger tech savvy people that can pull these things together quite easily and even have a landing page that could have those resources right on your page for conservation.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But for me, that's a rabbit hole and I could spend an entire day and there's just so much information out there. Well, maybe someday I'll have an assistant and I can stick them on it too.
Any updates on that?
Nope.
I had an administrative question that I wanted to bring up at the end here. I've got a letter here that I was asked to write, but I wasn't sure if I could circulate that or if I should share it and we should read it together, or what the approach is without violating open meeting laws. But we can circle back to that.
I guess you should probably share it here.
Is that the right way to do it? It's kind of clunky.
Yeah, because
but-
I'll add that right now as a discussion item. Chase, so we'll be on record with that. So if you want to go ahead and chat about that or share or read, that would be great.
Let me share it and let's see what you guys think of it and we can play with it. In the
Okay.
Share screen.
But the salamanders are moving in Connecticut and southern Mass.
I think it's much warmer there.
Yeah.
You all see this?
Yes.
Yep.
Scroll down a little bit. It's just about.
Very well done, Chase.
Agreed.
Would there be any role on this person? Say the application load is low at a particular period. Could this person work on the conservation lands?
I would say absolutely. That is part of what the job description includes. And I would also imagine that if there, like you said, are downtimes, that there's just tons of stuff that needs to be done on the conservation lands, from just inventory, what's on the kiosks to.
Can we add that to Chase's letter? Because is it in there? I may have missed it.
What about here in performing discretionary but vital functions on behalf of the town? For example, training volunteers, and instead of training volunteers and training volunteers, maintaining conservation.
Yeah.
That's great, Chase. So I agree with you, Amy. At any time, when our load is low, we could definitely have that person out, like doing any amount of different things.
Yep.
We also have to remember we're very fortunate that we have some great land stewards, but after some of these storms, we just need to make sure people can walk some of these properties to make sure they're safe and hazard free.
Yeah.
I could certainly take this paragraph and give 3 specific functions if you'd like, and add that as the third function. Someone to actually be out there more than Amy currently is. Or I tried to write this paragraph not to say the assistant would do these things, but rather it would free up the bandwidth for Amy or the assistant to do these.
Right, exactly. So, I assumed that depending on who we may end up hiring, is that if they have a special project they want to take on, whether it's invasive species or working with scouts or
Yeah.
doing GIS mapping, go for it.
Right.
But
And
open
I think
space,
that's great. We also have to remember it was a long time ago, but Ian Gunn actually jumped in and helped this town tremendously in addition to the agent when we had that culvert breach over by Flame and that, and the town was down for days, and that was like 24/7. And so if there's not commissioners, the agent may be one, God forbid we have a spill. There's, it's a lot of work to be on these sites.
and open space can and should be a bigger piece of my time.
Yep.
Community outreach.
So
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
and then just add a sentence here or two about the actual maintaining conservation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Public outreach. Okay. Yeah.
And then I assume that it's probably fine, Chase, at that point, if you, Doc, you share that, since we all know you love that so much, apparently.
Oh, I'm really good at that.
You wanna know how many permits have gone out without your signature?
Is that why one from 2 weeks ago just went through today?
Could be. And so do we, I currently wrote it. I didn't know how this would work. So I currently wrote it just from me on behalf of the Conservation Commission. I can revise it so it's from all of us and we just docu-sign it. I think that's way better. But I'll make those modifications too and send it out to Amy.
I
show via
think-
DocuSign.
I think it's stronger if it's comes from the whole Conservation Commission.
Agree. I think that's much better. So, okay, cool. I'll button this up afterwards and send it around to everybody.
Great.
Thank you very much.
for doing that, Chase.
Yeah,
Yeah.
appreciate that, Chase.
Very, very nice job, Chase. Thank you.
I'm going back through and I see our next meeting is March 8th. So I think as always, a reminder with these freeze thaws and a lot of this precipitation, if we can start to just really keep our eyes on some of the sites of some of these developments. I know we had chatted a month or two ago in regards to Cooper, that one of those basins. So I think as always, it's as you're driving through, if you can do that, that would be great.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to get out to Cooper tomorrow or Thursday, I think, before it snows again. And Halloran 370? Harwood has some issues with runoff that I'm trying to work through with them.
On the road side or on the brook side?
On the roadside.
Okay. I don't think there's any erosion control up there either.
He did a kind of mini basin the last time, and it's not doing the trick. So
What property
if
is
you
that?
drive by and you look at the slope, you can see where it's coming through.
Okay,
Next
so
to big
so
spruce
it's
trees.
coming down through where that split rail fence is on the road. So as you're driving towards Tehadawon, it's on your right. You drive in the driveway and the fence is on the left.
If you're driving, if you're looking up the slope, there's like a bunch of really big spruce.
Yeah.
It's almost at the left end of his property as you're looking up. There's that steep slope. He had put gravel down on the slope and stuff, but
Oh, so it's not not at the entrance?
no, it's not the entrance.
Oh, okay.
It's not the entrance. It's downhill from there.
That entrance makes a big enough mess as it is with
I
wet
know.
weather. It's
That's what I
constantly
thought.
has
I thought that
tracks.
was where it was. So Amy, how did you hear of the erosion?
There's a neighbor that lets us know anytime there's a drop of water coming off of there.
Okay.
So he alerted us, and I went out and looked, and I get a call, Richard, tomorrow.
Okay.
Is Any more movement on the gravel pit subdivision?
9 Air is coming in on the 8th. If that's the one you meant.
Yes.
Okay.
I didn't know how else to describe it. I forgot the address.
I'm with you. There's March 8th actually might be kind of busy.
March
All right.
8th.
So with that
And-
said, we will try and end a little earlier tonight. So that way we will set aside enough time for the next meeting on the 8th. How does that sound?
Sounds like a plan.
Is that how
I
that
think we all
works?
know
We're
that's not
banking
how it
time
works,
for the
Sarah,
next
but
one? Yeah, I say we bank time for the next one. That's how it works. Okay.
Yep. All right. Do we have anything else? Do we have a motion to adjourn? Please state the time.
Move to adjourn at 8:45 p.m.
Excellent. Do we have a second?
Second.
Those in favor?
dead second. Thank you.
Right, roll call vote. Kyle,
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Chase,
Chase Carbeck, aye.
Sarah,
Sarah Seward, aye.
Carl,
Carl Melberg, aye.
myself, I. We're adjourned.
All right. And Amy, you'll send out a reminder for March 1st, correct?